Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Oh, this is just my favorite. This is my favorite. Whenever there is a player who's unhappy in their current situation, it's all about Howie, go get your man. Go make the trade. Do whatever you need to do to make sure the Eagles acquire that player. And I understand the excitement when there's a big-time player, a difference maker who is possible to land. I get it. But let's take some deep breaths because there's so much involved in the equation. We're seeing it happen now with Jamal Adams. We saw it with Jalen Ramsey, where people were just willing to give up 2 first-round picks and pay him all this money. Yeah, okay. Look back at what you now have because you didn't do that Jalen Ramsey deal. Fans wanted Ngakoue, and they said that they would trade a first-round pick, and I'm not against that one. I do think that was something I stood by. It wasn't nearly as much as 2 first-round picks and all that. Ngakoue is a position that they value. I think they need help at the defensive line. I think that would have been something I would be interested in, but once again, it's not as if it had to happen. Howie, you suck if you don't get the deal done. I get the alternative as well. And now with Jamal Adams, there's a lot there. It's a good package. I mean, he had 6.5 sacks last year with the New York Jets as a safety. The Eagles right now, they have Jalen Mills, who was a cornerback and now transformed into a safety, which you have no clue what you're getting. You have Will Parks on a 1-year deal, and you have Rodney McLeod. You lost Malcolm Jenkins. I think we all understand how powerful of a loss that really is, not just on the field, but in the locker room as well, and in the city of Philadelphia as a whole, honestly. But you know that there is a position in the safety position where this team can use and upgrade and use some long-term player, a player who you know will be here for more than 1 year or 2 years. And Jamal Adams could be that guy. But there is a lot to factor in. It's compensation plus pay, plus the fact that this team is in cap hell down the road. So it's not going to be easy. If there's one man to do it, I think we've all heard this before, it's Howie Roseman because he knows how to manipulate the cap a lot of it. I'm interested. I think it's possible. I also think it's a little bit of a reach as well. And we will discuss it more, but before we do, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the industry, Orbit Energy and Power is home to solar experts in both residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure your project is completed easily and properly. They use high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. They even take care of all permitting and fees right there in their office, saving you the hassle of extra paperwork. We are talking $0 electric bills, people. The link is in the description for their website, and their phone number is also in the description. There's a positive at all this, whether they land him or they don't land him. The fact that the Eagles, they're a destination. People want to play for this team. Here's the list. You got the Dallas Cowboys, the Baltimore Ravens, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks. Those teams are on the list. Why do you think that is? Well, because they're good teams. Because they have talented rosters. Because he believes that they can get the job done and actually win something. I believe the Houston Texans are on there as well, which is a little interesting. I don't think Bill O'Brien has enough in the tank to be able to make that move after what he has done so far. I don't think he has enough pieces. Or he'll just give up all of his draft picks down the road and not give a damn because that's how bad of a GM he actually is. I don't know if I look at the Texans as a team that has some insane chance now that you lose DeAndre Hopkins. Well, you can look at it like this. What do these teams have? They have quarterbacks. Are we seeing the way that Jamal Adams views Carson Wentz? Dallas Cowboys, they have Dak Prescott. Baltimore Ravens, they have Lamar Jackson. We know what Pat Mahomes is, Jimmy G, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Is it all about, hey, if you have a quarterback that I trust in, I think we're going to be able to make some noise. So let me go to a spot. But I love the fact that the Eagles are on the list. People consider the Eagles. People want to play for the Eagles. So what does that say about Doug Peterson? Jim Schwartz, the quarterback. It's awesome to see around the league. If you want to compete, if you want to be in play, if you want to make the playoffs, if you want to have an actual chance to lift the Lombardi, people consider the Philadelphia Eagles. The players around the league view this organization as a winning culture. And I know that's not shocking. That's not breaking news. They do win football games. They won the Super Bowl a few years ago. They're making the playoffs. To see the high-profile players, though, come out in the open and go, look, the Eagles are on my team. Holler at me. It's got to put a smile on your face. Doug P should have a smile on his face. Maybe Jim Schwartz should have a smile on his face because it's up in the air that there's potential to be able to land a Jamal Adams. I just don't see, though, how it's actually going to go down because, look, Ngakoue, they didn't get the deal done. They would have had to give up compensation and pay. Do you think that the Eagles organization as a whole value the defensive end position more than the safety position? I would say yes. I would say absolutely, honestly. Yes. Yes, they value the front seven. They win in the trenches. The Eagles have been so successful because they win the trenches. They make sure both lines are phenomenal, fantastic. So I think they value that position way more than the safety spot, even though they had Malcolm. Even though they had a unique role for Malcolm Jenkins and he was playing all over the field and he was the captain out there and he was so explosive and doing all sorts of different things, it all starts up front and it always has when it comes to this team. So they're not going to do a deal for Ngakoue, but they will do it for Jamal Adams. It's just an interesting way to kind of look at it. And I know a lot of people are like, hey, get rid of Zach Ertz. He's getting older. We're worried about extending him. You can't be trading Zach Ertz for him. I don't see how that pays off. And don't tell me Goddard either. The reason why we talk about how explosive this offense can be, or how powerful this offense can be, it has to do with having these two tight ends where you can't stop them both. You have two lethal weapons at tight end. You're going to put all your guys on Zach Ertz, all your top guys? Okay, well, Dallas Goedert's going to be open. If you take Zach Ertz off the field, I'm not saying you can't make plays happen with just Dallas Goedert, but that's silly to trade Zach Ertz for a Jamal Adams. There's this big fascination with getting rid of Ertz because earlier, the conversation when it came to Howie Roseman and getting younger, and Doug Peterson today, we got to get younger a little bit. They all did. As an organization, they said, we need to get younger. Well, everyone looked at the age of Zach Ertz and said, well, hold on. Now it's time to get rid of him. They got rid of Malcolm. Now it's time to get rid of Zach Ertz. It doesn't mean every single player who hits a certain age is automatically ready to leave the city because they hit a specific spot in their career. I'm not in on trading Zach Ertz. I don't think people understand how much of a difference that makes. When we talk about the best tight ends in football, who comes up? Travis Kelce, Kittle, and then who? Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz. He's a top 3 tight end in the sport of football. I don't think people understand what that does for your offense. Once again, it doesn't mean you can't have a successful offense or you can't make plays happen or have good players outside of Zach Ertz. Absolutely you could. But it changes the way defenses match up with your best players. Now now the opposing's best player is not on Zach Ertz. And now that changes your other player out on the field. There is one guy, though, that I think I would look into the most, and it just comes down to it's the nature of the position, and it's the nature of how the position is viewed around the league. It's Miles Sanders. Yep, it's Miles Sanders, because I've said this. I'm not giving him a big payday. I'm not giving him a Christian McCaffrey deal. I don't care how good he becomes. You can find players at that position anywhere. Anywhere. Undrafted, me, you, 7th round. Yeah, you can. You absolutely can. Look, we're talking about Boston Scott and how big of a role he's going to get. Think about where he came from. We watched Corey Clement the year of the Super Bowl. He was unbelievable. Think where he came from. Phillip Lindsay, Carson, Chris Carson, that is. I mean, it's all over the league. It's because of the nature of the position. And you got to give some to get some. You're not going to be able to trade a nobody and think you're going to get Jamal Adams. But because of the nature of the position, I wouldn't be out on it. I don't think it's going to happen at all, to be clear. This is me just giving my personal opinion. I would not rule that out at all. I'd actually be intrigued by it. And I do know how, I talked about how powerful Zach Ertz is, right? What that means for other teams' defenses. Miles Sanders is a stud. I'm not denying that at all. But you can plug and play at that position more so than any other position in football. So with that being said, if you can land a 24-year-old safety who can be your safety for years to come and play a big-time role, and you can find another running back out there, I think you could be able to do it. Nowadays, that position, you can find your Alvin Kamaras and you can find your players who can do a little bit of both with versatility, running the ball, catching the ball out of the backfield. They're all over the place. Miles Sanders, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey. I'm not saying anyone can be Christian McCaffrey. But last year, look what Jordan Howard did before he got banged up. And that's another thing, how banged up that position gets. But Jordan Howard, look at what they traded to get him. Nothing. You can find players like that. Jay Ajayi, look what they traded to get him. Nothing. But Garrett Blunt, they picked him up late in free agency. I mean, it's all over the league. Examples. Having that stud running back, it helps. But it doesn't always relate into, it means you're just dominating all over the place. It's a team game. I'm not saying it's bad to have great talent back there. But I don't think it's necessary. It's almost like an added bonus. It's definitely not necessary. I swear to God, the Eagles would probably win the same amount of games if I was back there. That's how devalued that position is at this time of 2020 football. Who knows? 20 years from now, we could be talking about the running back like they did back in the 50s, where all you did was hand the football off, let them churn, and let them go. But at this point, that is not how the NFL is played. Once again, I don't think that that's reality. I don't even think that's in the mix. But personally, I would not rule that out. I like Miles Sanders. The kid is going to be unbelievable. I don't pay running backs that much money. And because of that, and because of the nature of the position, he's definitely not an untouchable. Definitely not an untouchable. I keep thinking about this offensive line, too. Because the Brandon Brooks thing, shocker, huge problem. You shouldn't be too shocked, but shocker, it's a huge problem. What are they going to do to fix it? And you heard the noise about in-house. In-house is what Doug Peterson said. So that means, realistically, at this point at least, Matt Pryor seems to be leading the way based off of the 1.5 game experience that he had last season. He went in for Brandon Brooks when he left the game against the New York Giants, and then he played the Seattle Seahawks game in the playoffs. There's some guys out there free agency-wise. I know Chris Long's brother, Kyle Long, was in the mix, but he has significant injury history, and I don't think that that's something that will go unnoticed when it comes to this front office. And he's retired, and I use air quotes because it's a fake retirement. He will happily move back into the league if possible. I just think he was unhappy with the whole Bears thing and how all that went down. But it's a soft retirement. There's some free agents out there that maybe they have to take a chance on, because here's the thing. If one guy gets injured, I'm really nervous. One man goes injured from here, what do you have? Herbig, Jack Driscoll, Jordan Mailata, who can only play tackle. You're going to be in a serious problem. So this money that they would possibly use on Jamal Adams, is it possible you use that money when it comes to a guard? Because you're going to need a guard. And I see their cap space, and you got to remember that the money rolls over into next year. The problem is down the road in the upcoming years, Howie has a lot of work cut out for him. So I don't see how it's possible to be able to just trade compensation when it comes to draft picks, pay the man, and then still work everything out for the next couple years. Let me take that back. Is it possible? Yes, I think it's possible, but it only makes Howie's job way harder. Way harder. It's going to be so brutal. It's going to be tough to begin with now. You want to add on top of it? I heard some arguments go with, look, the Eagles aren't that good enough anyway this year to win. So why would you do it? And I think that's ridiculous. For this year, you're saying the Eagles aren't good enough to win a Super Bowl, so don't trade for Jamal Adams. You would only think that way if you're not planning on extending him. But why would you trade for Jamal Adams for this one season? And why would he play here in that scenario if the reason why he's not playing with the Jets is because of the money part of things? How about Joe Douglas, by the way, struggling to get the job done, struggling to keep a player like Jamal Adams in that organization? That is one hell of a talent to just let walk out the door. But maybe he's playing the game. Maybe he sees something where it's, let me get that compensation. I like Joe Douglas. I think he's a respectful guy. He's been around the league for a while, and he's done some good things here in Philadelphia. So, we'll see. Maybe he's struggling in the GM role, though. Maybe he's going, whoa, it's a little harder than I thought. It's a little harder to keep these players happy than I thought. Or he's playing the game with them. It's funny because I don't really know where this Jets team is. I liked Sam Darnold out of college. I thought he'd be better by now than what he is, but it's also the New York Jets, and I can't stand their head coach. I don't think that he helps whatsoever, and it's not as if the team has an obnoxious amount of talent. I like Sam Darnold, but what are they? It's hard to tell in that division as well because, the Patriots dominated year after year after year, and the Bills made some noise last year, but with Tom Brady out, does that open the door? I still don't see the Jets as some playoff team, though. I think it's the Bills' division to take at this point. Like, where are the Jets? Is that a reason why he's bothered? He wants to win. He wants to go somewhere where he will be able to compete, and that's why the Eagles are on the list. That's why the Eagles are on a lot of people's list, which is a great feeling. But going back to the offensive line real quick, I know I'm jumping all over the place a little bit. We had Trey Thomas on 97.3 ESPN last Friday. Left tackle, by the way, of the Eagles, if you did not know that. Former left tackle. You should know that. I should not even have had to said that. You should know that. He said, look, he didn't really see a drop-off in film, and he studies film all the time. That's what he does, in the trenches, trench talk. What he was saying is, because I asked him a question about Carson Wentz. Do you think that this impacts Carson Wentz at all, not having Brandon Brooks? He said it shouldn't. He has the player's mentality still. I absolutely love it. And he's so pro-offensive line. I love it. Obviously, we know player versus player, there's a huge drop-off. I mean, huge from Brandon Brooks to Matt Pryor. And that's not a knock on Matt Pryor. That's just praising how good Brandon Brooks is. He's arguably the best guard in football. Best right guard in football, you could say. But he's like, look, why? Why would Carson Wentz think that way? There should be no reason why. I mentioned how Carson Wentz, he rolls to the right, he throws to the right. That's what he does. He throws on the run. He's so good at it. Do you think now in his mind he's thinking, oh, no, this right side's a little weaker? No, why? There were no signs of any fall. It wasn't as if Matt Pryor was getting destroyed and so was Carson Wentz. No! There was barely any drop-off, he said. He's not wrong for 1.5 games. But can 1.5 games be enough of a sample size? I'm not down on Matt Pryor. I just don't know what he can do long term. I'm intrigued by the 1.5 games that he played. I just know deep down that, 1.5 games, if you saw Vitae for one game where he prepared all week, you would think one way about him. If you saw him for half a game where he didn't prepare all week, he got thrown into the mix, and he had one of those abysmal performances, and that's all you saw, you would think differently. The sample sizes are just not big enough. And we all know that at this point, when it comes to Vitae, he's a great example of you don't appreciate what you have until it's gone. Because look now, you would love to have a Vitae. Now it looks like Matt Pryor is the Vitae 2.0. You just don't know exactly what you're going to get, but that's his role. It's his role to lose. Jeff Mosher of Inside the Bird said one of his NFC, I believe it was NFC North personnel people that he talks to, So look out for Herbig. Herbig has an opportunity to maybe make some noise over Matt Pryor. So just be on the lookout. Interesting. Apparently some film says Nate Herbig might have a little extra oomph into him. Maybe he could beat out Matt Pryor. There's a battle. There's a matchup. I still think you got to go out and land somebody in free agency. And I don't know if Jason Peters is the option. It doesn't seem as if they're going to just put him at right guard. Or it doesn't seem like they're going to put him at left guard and move Isaac over to right guard. It just doesn't seem that way. It seems more and more that they're leaning towards just getting a right guard and having him be on the team. And I'm not against that. They need to pick up a body. They need an actual body. Whether Matt Pryor wins the job out still and that body, whoever they pick up, is just on the bench for the Vitae role, well, then so be it. But they need to get someone, because if one guy goes down, you are screwed. Let's bring it back full circle here. I know we kind of hit on a couple different things. But with Jamal Adams, the moral of the story is he will help your football team. He can fill a position that you're going to need for years, because you have these one-year deals where you just don't know what you're going to get out of the guys, and then who knows, if they have a good season, they can go hit the free agency market, another team can pick them up. There's no promise that Will Park stays here, although he is a guy who loves the area. We understand that. Jalen Mills, you just don't know what you got. And then Rodney McLeod, he's an okay safety. He's here for a couple more years, but there's no doubt you need an upgrade, and you just lost Malcolm Jenkins. So will it help? Yes. 24 years old, 6.5 sacks. Football IQ is insane. Very physical. Very athletic. I'm not ruling it out. It just seems like more of a stretch than a reality. A lot of other teams in play. You're going to have to outbid those teams. You're going to have to give up compensation, and you're going to have to pay. Cap space is an issue. It's not just about, oh, go get the player. Go give up whatever. Go get the player. It doesn't work that way. There's so much involved. There is a lot of questions when it comes to Howie Roseman at this point. When was the last time he went out and made a huge splash? It's been a while. It seemed like there was the Howie season moments for a little bit, and then that kind of died out. And now he's in a different view when it comes to this city. People view him differently than, say, a couple years back when he was willing to do a little bit more, when he was able to kind of make a couple more splashes. But when it comes to these extensions and you're extending players and you're doing this, cap space matters. And now, here's the big one. Carson Wentz's contract. That plays a role. That contract is huge. It changes every franchise and every organization when the quarterback starts getting paid top dollar. Once the rookie contract's over, it's a whole new ball game. It's a big time difference. And that's the dilemma the Eagles are in. That doesn't mean it's impossible. Look what Seattle did with the Seahawks. Things changed, but they found ways to kind of switch it up. They had to rebuild a little bit. They had to retool is the right word. Retool. They did it, and now the Seahawks are back. They're on the uprise. They're battling every single year. So it's possible. I'm intrigued by the player. I'm okay with them not giving up all these pieces for Jalen Ramsey. But I do question, if they weren't going to do it for Ngakoue, would they do it for Jamal Adams? Now, is Jamal Adams a better player than Ngakoue? Two different positions, but overall player, is he better? Both are damn good. Both are damn good. I just look at the way that this organization values the defensive end position, and they value that more. So if they're not going to do it for a position that they value a lot, where you can't have too much depth, are they going to do it for a position in safety where right now they're okay, but how about a window? How about a window? And that's what I say to the people who were talking about, well, the Eagles aren't ready to win a Super Bowl now, so why go get them? Well, it's not just for the 1 year. You have to extend them. And then you're talking about a safety position that you don't need to think about for a few seasons, for a few years. The first-round draft pick, I think that's also in play as well. Because here's the thing. If you told me you got Jamal Adams in the first round of a draft, stoked, pumped. Here's the difference, though. That does matter. When you draft a Jamal Adams, you get a couple years of Jamal Adams without the contract. Now add Carson Wentz's contract to that. That's why it's important to land those players with your actual draft picks rather than giving up your draft picks and then you have to go sign a guy as soon as you make that trade. That's the difference. And it is important. That can't just go unnoticed. That is extremely important. But I don't think the first round pick should be out of the question. You got to find ways to be creative. But there's other teams that are going to be creative. It would really sting to see him go put the star on. And you can only imagine the reaction that's going to happen if that occurs. Just like the CeeDee Lamb thing. People wouldn't care if CeeDee Lamb went to the Chargers. They wouldn't. They wouldn't care at all. But they went to the Cowboys. So during the draft, the emotional reaction was so much different. If all this goes down and Howie didn't make the trade and then he ends up going to play for the Dallas Cowboys, oh, I can't believe he didn't make the trade. But if he goes and plays for the Texans, totally different. Or the Chiefs, totally different. I will say, though, imagine him on the Baltimore Ravens with that defense. Wow. That is insane. That would be literally unfair. That's almost as if you're playing Madden and you're doing a fantasy draft and then you find a way to make trades with the computer who always say yes and then you just stack your entire team. That defense would be lethal. I'm almost intrigued to see it. But of course, I'd rather see him play at the Link. I'd rather see him in the green, black, and white uniforms. Him and Ronnie McLeod out there. Just to be clear, I think it's a stretch. I'm intrigued. I'm not ruling anything out, but I don't think it's a reality. I don't think it should be to the point where you should be excited about the possibility of landing him. I don't think it's a move that this organization is going to make because it's going to cost a lot of money and it's going to cost compensation as well. And I don't think that they're willing to do that based off of the future. A GM's job, have a blueprint of years down the road. Years down the road. You got to think about it. Without going after Jalen Ramsey, this team added a bunch. And it mattered. Hindsight. Go back and look. Go back at what people were throwing out there. Trade 9 picks. I don't care. Trade 7 picks. I don't care. Yeah, you should care. You should. People don't think about what's down the road. That's how organizations keep success for a long period of time because they do worry about that. They put that into play. You got to keep yourself relevant and keep yourself open to certain things down the road as well because you never know what's going to pop up. 2 years ago, if you made a specific trade for someone, you never knew that Jamal Adams might have been possible. And because maybe you don't make a move 2 years ago, that gives you the opportunity to land Jamal Adams. Right? There's more to it. There's always going to be more options available as the years move on. So there you have it. I like the player. He's a good player. He'd help this football team. I would think about it if the price is right, if the money is right, if the compensation's right. I'm not ruling it out. I don't think it's time to bang on the tables for him, though. That's all. It's not time to bang on the table. We need him. We lost Malcolm. We need him. I don't know if it's to that level. It would be nice. We do need help at that position. It's not the only option in the world, though. You can find a safety. You can find him in free agency. You can draft one. There's going to be good safeties coming out of drafts. There's going to be good safeties available in the league. It's not the only safety that you need to win. Not time to bang on the tables. One more time, this episode of Sports Talk with Bros is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. In addition, they will make sure you receive all the state and federal incentives available for switching to solar. There's no risk and no need for investment. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you next time.